Chol wiped sweat from his forehead as he tightened the last bolt on the engine. The ship's core hummed back to life, its blue glow filling the cramped engine room. He smiled, proud of his work. Still using manual tools. How quaint, said a cold voice behind him. Chol turned to see Lieutenant Dax standing in the doorway. The tall, reptilian alien looked down at him with 3 yellow eyes, all showing the same look of disgust. The job got done, didn't it? Chol replied, putting his wrench back in his toolbox. A proper engineer would have used a molecular aligner, but I forget. Human hands are too clumsy for real technology. Dax's scales rippled with amusement. Chol said nothing. After 2 years aboard the Stellar Horizon Asterisk, he was used to comments like this. He was the only human on a ship of 15 aliens, and most of them thought humans were primitive. Engine status report, demanded Dax. Fixed and running at full power, said Chol. The problem was a loose connection in the cooling system. Dax made a clicking sound with his tongue. Captain Yuna wants all crew in the meeting room in 10 minutes. Try not to be late this time. After Dax left, Chol sat on an empty crate and took a deep breath. Every day was the same. Fix the ship, get mocked, repeat. Sometimes he wondered why he had taken this job. The answer was simple. Money. Working on an alien trade ship paid 3 times what he could earn on Earth. In 2 more years, he would have enough saved to buy his own repair shop back home. If he could last that long. The meeting room was filled with the sounds and smells of many alien species. Tall, short, scaled, furred. The crew of the Stellar Horizon Asterisk came from 8 different worlds. Chol took his seat at the far end of the table, trying to be invisible. Captain Yuna entered the room, and everyone fell silent. She was half human, half Archelian, with dark eyes and blue-tinted skin. She was strict but fair, even to Chol. Our sensors have detected unusual energy spikes in Sector 7, she announced. We're changing course to investigate. Chol, the ship's navigator, raised a furry hand. Sector 7 is empty space. Nothing there but dust. Not according to these readings, said Captain Yuna, showing a hologram of energy waves. Something is out there. And if it's something valuable, I want us to find it first. Or dangerous, added Jin, the ship's doctor. She was also half human, with subtle ridges on her forehead being the only sign of her Archelian heritage. She was one of the few crew members who treated Chol with respect. Lieutenant Dax stood up. Whatever it is, I suggest we approach with weapons ready. This region has had pirate activity. Agreed, said Captain Yuna. Weapons on standby, but no firing without my order. We'll reach the area in 6 hours. As the meeting ended, Chol headed back to the engine room. He was checking the fuel levels when the ship's computer suddenly flashed red warnings across all screens. System failure in progress, announced the automated voice. Primary power dropping. Secondary systems failing. The lights flickered, then went out completely. Emergency red lighting came on a moment later. Chol grabbed his flashlight and checked the main control panel. Nothing made sense. All systems had been perfect an hour ago. The door slid open, and 3 angry aliens stormed in. What did you do? Shouted Dax, grabbing Chol by his uniform. Nothing. I was just. The systems crashed right after you fixed the engine, said Chol, his fur standing on end with anger. Captain Yuna pushed her way in. That's enough. Release him, Lieutenant. Dax let go of Chol reluctantly. I didn't do anything, Chol said. Everything was working fine. Then fix it, hissed Dax, or we'll see how long a human can survive a spacewalk without a suit. The aliens left, except for Captain Yuna. You have 4 hours to get the systems back online, she said. The ship is drifting, and life support is running on emergency power. Chol nodded. I'll fix it, Captain. After she left, Chol stared at the dead control panels. This wasn't a normal failure. Something had attacked the ship's computers from the inside. As he worked, A strange distress signal began to flicker on his screen, coming from exactly where they were headed. Chul worked for 3 hours straight. His hands were sore and sweat soaked his uniform. Finally, the main power came back on with a deep hum. The lights brightened, and the control panels lit up again. "Systems restored," said the ship's computer. "All functions normal." Chul sat on the floor, exhausted but relieved. He had found the problem. A strange virus in the ship's computer. He had never seen anything like it before. The virus seemed to be pulling the ship toward the source of the distress signal. Captain Yuna's voice came over the speaker. "Chul, report to the bridge immediately." When Chul reached the bridge, all eyes turned to him. Some looked angry, others suspicious. "He fixed it," announced Captain Yuna. "As I knew he would." Lieutenant Dax snorted. "After he broke it in the first place." "I didn't break anything," said Chul firmly. "There was a virus in the system. And there's something else. A distress signal coming from Sector 7. "Put it on the main screen," ordered Captain Yuna. Chul pressed some buttons, and a weak signal appeared. The message repeated in an old Earth language that few people still used. "What does it say?" asked Jin, moving closer to the screen. "It's an old Korean dialect," said Chul, surprised. "It says, 'This is the colony ship asterisk, Soul's Promise asterisk. We are damaged and need assistance. Any human vessels please respond.'" The asterisk, Soul's Promise asterisk. Captain Yuna's eyes widened. "That ship disappeared over 300 years ago." "A human ghost story," said Dax dismissively. "There's nothing out there." "Then explain this," said Chul, showing the signal data on his tablet. "This is a real ship sending a real distress call." Captain Yuna studied the data. "Change course to the signal's origin. Full speed." "Captain," protested Dax, "this could be a trap. Pirates often use fake distress signals." "Pirates don't use 300-year-old ships or languages as bait," said Captain Yuna. "We have a duty to investigate." 2 hours later, the asterisk Stellar Horizon asterisk slowed as it approached a massive dark shape floating in space. The ship's lights revealed an enormous vessel, at least 3 times their size. Its hull was black with age, but the design was unmistakably human. "The asterisk Soul's Promise asterisk," whispered Chul. He had heard stories about this ship since childhood. It was one of the first colony ships sent from Earth, carrying 5,000 people to a new world. It had vanished without a trace. "It looks intact," noted Jin, studying the scans. "No major damage visible." "Scan for life signs," ordered Captain Yuna. Chul ran the scan. "No life signs detected, but there's a power source active somewhere deep inside the ship." "We should board it," said Chul. "There might be survivors." Dax laughed. "After 300 years, your human optimism is amusing." "Not survivors," Chul corrected, "but answers. Why is the distress signal still active? What happened to this ship?" Captain Yuna nodded. "We'll send a boarding party. Lieutenant Dax, Dr. Jin, Chul, and myself. The human." Dax's scales darkened with anger. "He'll just slow us down." "This is a human vessel," Captain Yuna said firmly. "Chul's knowledge might be valuable." An hour later, the 4 of them stood in the airlock, wearing spacesuits. Chul checked his oxygen levels and communication system. "Remember," said Captain Yuna, "we stay together. Our goal is to find the source of the power and the distress signal, nothing else." "What if we find something valuable?" asked Dax. "This is a rescue mission, not a salvage operation," Captain Yuna said sharply. They moved through the connecting tunnel to the old ship's airlock. Chul felt a strange sensation as they approached, like a pull in his mind. Something about this ship felt familiar, though he had never been on it. The outer door of the asterisk, Soul's Promise asterisk, opened with surprising ease. They stepped inside, their helmet lights cutting through the darkness. Dust floated in the air. The gravity was still working, though weakly. "How is this possible?" whispered Jin. "After 3 centuries, The systems should be dead. As they moved deeper into the ship, Shull's helmet light revealed writing on the walls, old Korean letters. He felt the strange pull grow stronger, calling him forward. Whatever secrets this ghost ship held, they were waiting for him. The boarding party moved slowly through the dark hallways of the Asterisk, Soul's Promise Asterisk. Their footsteps echoed in the empty corridors. Everything was covered in a thin layer of dust. "This ship is remarkably intact," said Jin, touching a wall panel. "It should have broken down centuries ago." "Human engineering," snorted Dax. "Primitive but stubborn." Chull ignored the insult and studied the ship's layout on his tablet. According to old records, the command center should be 2 levels up. As they walked, Chull noticed something strange. The ship didn't look like the colony vessels in history books. The technology seemed more advanced. Panels on the walls had symbols he didn't recognize. The materials looked stronger than anything humans made these days. "Captain," he said, "something's not right. This ship is different from the records." Captain Yuna examined a door with strange markings. "How so?" "The design, the technology. It's more advanced than it should be for a ship from that era." "Humans always exaggerate their achievements," said Dax, waving a scanner around. "My readings show nothing special, just old dead technology." Suddenly, Dax's scanner sparked and went dark. He cursed in his native language and threw it to the floor. "What happened?" asked Captain Yuna. "This useless device just died," growled Dax. "Must be interference from all this junk." Chull checked his own simple scanner. It was working perfectly. "That's odd. Mine is fine." Jin's medical scanner also failed, then Captain Yuna's communications device. Only Chull's basic equipment still worked. "Perhaps the humans' primitive tools are too simple to be affected," said Dax with a sneer. They reached a large door marked with the Korean word for bridge. Captain Yuna pressed the control panel, but nothing happened. "Allow me," said Chull. He found a manual override and turned it. With a groan, the heavy door slid open. The bridge was huge, with stations for at least 20 crew members. A large window showed the stars outside. Everything was covered in dust, but otherwise, it looked like the crew had just stepped away for a moment. "No signs of damage," noted Jin. "No signs of struggle. Where did everyone go?" Chull approached the captain's chair. On the armrest was a small screen, still glowing faintly after all these years. He touched it, and suddenly the whole bridge lit up. Screens came to life, and a soft hum filled the air. "What did you do?" demanded Dax, jumping back. "Nothing," said Chull, equally surprised. "I just touched the screen." A voice spoke from hidden speakers, in the same old Korean dialect as the distress signal. Chull listened, his face growing pale. "What's it saying?" asked Captain Yuna. "It says, DNA match confirmed. Welcome back, Commander." Chull's voice shook. "But that's impossible. I've never been on this ship before." Captain Yuna looked troubled. "Perhaps it's recognizing you as human. Or perhaps he's been here before," said Dax suspiciously. "Maybe this whole thing is a trap." Before Chull could defend himself, the ship shuddered. Lights flickered, and a new alarm sounded. "What's happening?" asked Jin, grabbing a rail to steady herself. The voice spoke again, and this time Chull translated immediately. "It says, security protocols activated. Unknown aliens detected. Containment procedures initiated." The doors to the bridge slammed shut. A force field appeared, separating Chull from the others. "Chull!" shouted Captain Yuna. "Shut it down." Chull tried to reach the controls, but the force field blocked him. "I can't." Dax slammed against the force field, but it didn't budge. "I knew it. You planned this." "No," protested Chull. "I don't know what's happening." The floor beneath the aliens began to move. A hidden door opened, and they started to sink down to a lower level. "Find a way to stop this," Captain Yuna called as they disappeared from view. The bridge fell silent. Chull was alone, surrounded by ancient technology that somehow recognized him. On the main screen, a message appeared in Old Korean. Follow the path. Find the legacy. Time is short. A hidden door opened on the far side of the bridge. Chul felt the strange pull again, stronger than ever. Whatever was calling him lay beyond that door. With no other choice, Chul stepped forward into the unknown. Chul stepped through the hidden door. It closed behind him with a soft hiss. He was in a narrow hallway with blue lights that turned on as he walked. "Hello," he called. His voice echoed back at him. "Is anyone here?" Only silence answered. He checked his comm device, but it couldn't connect to the others. He was truly alone. The hallway led down, deep into the heart of the ship. Chul felt drawn forward by that strange pull in his mind. It was like the ship was calling to him, guiding him somewhere important. "This makes no sense," Chul muttered to himself. "Why would this ship recognize me?" As he walked, he noticed the walls were covered with strange symbols that glowed softly. They weren't Korean letters or any language he knew. Yet somehow, they seemed familiar. Meanwhile, Captain Yuna, Lieutenant Dax, and Dr. Jin found themselves in a plain white room. There were no doors or windows, just smooth walls on all sides. "This is your fault," Dax hissed at Captain Yuna. "You insisted on bringing the human." The ship responded to him, which means he's our best chance of getting out. Captain Yuna replied calmly. "We need to find a way to contact him." Dr. Jin touched the walls, looking for hidden panels. "These materials, I've never seen anything like them. They're absorbing the energy from our devices. Can you find a weakness?" asked Captain Yuna. Jin shook her head. "No, but I think the ship is studying us. See those small dots in the ceiling? They might be scanners." Dax snarled and pulled out his backup weapon. "Then let's give it something to think about." He fired at the wall, but the energy blast simply disappeared into the surface without leaving a mark. "Save your energy," said Captain Yuna. "We need to think, not fight." Chul reached a large circular room deep in the ship. In the center stood a pillar of light that reached from floor to ceiling. Inside the light, images flashed rapidly. Stars, planets, strange machines, and faces of people long dead. As Chul approached, the images slowed. He saw a great fleet of ships, larger and more advanced than any human vessels he knew of. He saw battles in space, planets being destroyed, and finally, a group of humans in uniforms sealing something in a vault. "What is this?" Chul whispered. "History," said a voice behind him. Chul spun around. An old man stood there, his body slightly transparent. He was wearing an old uniform with Korean symbols on the shoulders. "Who are you?" asked Chul. "I am a memory," said the old man. "A program created to wait for someone like you. A true human. I don't understand. This ship disappeared 300 years ago." The old man smiled sadly. 300 years to you. Far longer to us. Time passes differently when you're hiding. Hiding from what? From those who would destroy what remains of our legacy. The old man gestured to the pillar of light. "Your companions. They are not human." "They're my crewmates," said Chul. "Captain Yuna is half human." "Half is not enough," said the old man. "The ship's security systems detect only alien biology in them. Only you register as fully human. Only you can access what we hid here." "And what is that?" asked Chul. The old man waved his hand, and part of the wall slid open. "The truth. About Earth. About humans. About what we once were." Chul hesitated. "My friends, are they safe?" "They are contained, not harmed. But you must decide quickly. The ship's power is fading. Soon, the security systems will fail, and the containment will break. What is hidden here must be found before that happens. Or what? Or it will be lost forever. And with it, the true history of your species." Chul thought of Captain Yuna and Dr. Jin, who had always been kind to him. Even Lieutenant Dax, for all his mockery, was still his crewmate. "I need to help my friends first," said Chol. The old man nodded. "Loyalty, a human trait we valued highly." He pointed to a small panel on the wall. "This will show you where they are being held. But remember, time is short." Chol checked the panel. It showed a map of the ship with 3 dots indicating his crewmate's location. "Thank you," said Chol. "I'll come back after I find them." "The path will remain open for you," said the old man as he began to fade. "But only for you." As the figure disappeared, Chol headed toward his captured crewmates, determined to rescue them before continuing his strange journey into humanity's forgotten past. Chol hurried through dark hallways, following the map to his crewmates. The ship felt alive around him, lights turning on as he passed and doors opening before he reached them. It was as if the whole vessel was helping him. He came to a small room with control panels. On a screen, he could see Captain Yuna, Dax, and Jin in their white cell. "How do I free them?" Chol asked aloud. Words appeared on the screen in Korean. "Security override requires captain's authorization." "I'm not the captain," said Chol. "DNA analysis confirms human pattern. All humans hold override authority." Chol pressed his hand to the panel. It glowed blue, scanning him. A door slid open in the wall, revealing a narrow passage. "Manual override access granted," said the ship's voice. Chol squeezed through the passage. It led to a small door that opened into the White Room from above. His crewmates didn't notice him enter. They were arguing loudly. "Hello," Chol called from the ceiling entrance. All 3 aliens looked up in surprise. "Chol," Captain Yuna said. "How did you find us?" "The ship helped me," Chol explained, lowering a ladder from the ceiling. "We need to hurry." "This way." Dax narrowed his eyes. "Why should we trust you? This ship responds to you. For all we know, you planned this." "If I planned it, why would I come back for you?" Chol asked. "Please, there's something important on this ship. Something about human history." Jin was already climbing the ladder. "I believe him. This ship is far beyond anything in our records." Captain Yuna followed. "Agreed. Whatever's happening here is bigger than our differences." Dax reluctantly climbed up last, muttering about human tricks. Once they were all in the control room, Chol showed them the map. "The ship has something hidden in the captain's quarters. I think we should go there." "We should return to our ship," argued Dax. "This place is dangerous." "I agree with Chol," said Captain Yuna. "We came to investigate, and that's what we'll do." They followed the map through more hallways. The deeper they went, the more strange technology they saw. Machines that hummed with unknown energy. Screens that showed star systems none of them recognized. "This doesn't make sense," said Jin, examining a medical device. "Some of this technology is more advanced than anything we have now. How could humans from the past have built this?" "Perhaps the history we know is wrong," suggested Captain Yuna. They reached a sealed door with the Korean word for captain on it. Unlike the other doors, this one didn't open automatically for Chol. "It needs a special key," Chol said, studying the control panel. Jin pointed to a small opening beside the door. "Look at this. It's shaped like a hand." Chol placed his hand in the opening. It fit perfectly. The door rumbled and slowly slid open. Inside was a large room that looked like someone's private quarters. A desk, a bed, and shelves with old books. Dust covered everything. In a chair behind the desk sat a skeleton wearing an old uniform. The bones were yellow with age. The skeleton's hand rested on something on the desk, something that glowed with soft blue light. "What is that?" whispered Jin. Chol approached slowly. The object was a gun, but unlike any he had seen before. It was sleek and silver, with strange symbols etched into its surface. The symbols glowed with the same blue light they had seen throughout the ship. "Don't touch it," warned Dax. "It could be dangerous." But Chol felt the pull again, stronger than ever. Without thinking, he reached out and picked up the gun. The moment his fingers touched the metal, the blue light flared brightly. The symbols on the gun began to move, flowing like water across its surface. Then they seemed to flow up Chul's arm, covering his skin with glowing blue patterns. Chul gasped as images flooded his mind. He saw stars, planets, and great cities. He saw humans commanding vast fleets of ships. He saw technology beyond anything he could imagine. He saw the truth. Chul. Captain Yuna's voice seemed far away. What's happening? Chul turned to his crewmates, his eyes glowing with the same blue light as the gun. I remember, he said in a voice that didn't sound like his own. I remember what we were. Chul stood still, his eyes glowing blue. The gun in his hand pulsed with the same light. Captain Yuna, Jin, and Dax watched in silence, too shocked to move. Chul, Jin finally asked, "Are you okay?" Chul blinked slowly, as if waking from a dream. The blue glow in his eyes faded, but the symbols on his arm remained. "I'm fine," he said. "Better than fine." "I understand now." "Understand what?" demanded Dax. "This isn't a colony ship," Chul explained, looking at the gun with wonder. "The Asterisk Soul's Promise Asterisk was a warship, the last warship of the Human Empire." "Human Empire," Captain Yuna repeated. "There was never a human empire." "There was," Chul said firmly, "long before the records we know. Humans once ruled the stars. We had technology far beyond what exists now." Dax laughed harshly. "Impossible. Humans have always been primitive." "No." Chul pointed the gun at the wall. With just a thought, a screen appeared, showing images of vast cities, massive ships, and advanced technology. "This is our true past." The images changed to show terrible battles in space, explosions so huge they destroyed entire planets. "What happened?" asked Jin, her voice hushed. "War," said Chul simply. "A war that nearly wiped out all intelligent life in the galaxy. Humans fought against an enemy we can't remember anymore. The war was so devastating that both sides nearly destroyed themselves. And this gun," Captain Yuna gestured to the weapon in Chul's hand. "It's called a quantum neural interface weapon. It's not just a gun, it's a key. It can control all the systems on this ship because it connects directly to the user's mind. But it only works for humans. Our brains have a unique pattern that the technology responds to." Dax's scales darkened with anger. "So this is why you humans were isolated for so long. The rest of the galaxy remembered what you were capable of." "Not remembered," corrected Chul. "They feared what we might become again. Our history was erased. Humans were kept primitive, told we were nothing special." As they talked, the ship suddenly shuddered. Alarms began to sound. "What's happening?" asked Jin. Chul closed his eyes, connecting with the ship through the gun. "Something's wrong. The power core is failing. The ship has been running on emergency power for centuries, and it's finally running out." "We need to get back to our ship," said Captain Yuna. "Now." They hurried from the captain's quarters, following Chul. He seemed to know exactly where to go now, guided by his connection to the ancient weapon. As they ran, Dax pulled Captain Yuna aside. "We can't let him keep that weapon," he whispered. "It's too dangerous." "It's not our decision," Captain Yuna replied. "This is human technology. It belongs to him more than to us. Humans with that kind of power nearly destroyed the galaxy once," hissed Dax. "We can't risk it happening again." They reached a junction where the hallway split in two directions. Suddenly, Dax shoved Chul against the wall. "Give me the weapon," Dax demanded, drawing his own gun. "Now." "Dax!" Captain Yuna shouted. "Stand down." "No," said Dax. "I'm protecting the galaxy. Humans can't be trusted with this power again." Chul didn't fight back. He stared at Dax calmly. "You're afraid. I understand. But this weapon isn't meant to destroy. It was created to rebuild." Lies, snarled Dax. He turned to Jin. Grab the captain. We're taking this weapon and destroying it. Jin hesitated, looking between Dax and Captain Yuna. Think, Jin, urged Dax. You've studied history. You know what happens when primitive species get advanced technology. Another alarm sounded, louder than before. The lights began to flicker. We don't have time for this, said Chul. The ship is dying. If we don't leave now, we'll all be trapped here. Not until you give me the weapon, insisted Dax. Chul looked at the gun in his hand. Then he looked up at Dax with determination in his eyes. No, he said firmly. For too long, humans have been kept in the dark about what we truly are. I won't let that continue. The ancient gun began to glow brighter in his hand. The ancient gun glowed brighter in Chul's hand. Blue lights spread up his arm to his shoulder. Dax took a step back, his own weapon still pointed at Chul's chest. What are you doing? Dax demanded, his voice shaking slightly. I'm not going to hurt you, said Chul calmly. I'm going to show you. He raised the gun, but instead of aiming it at Dax, he pointed it at the ceiling. A beam of blue light shot out, spreading across the metal surface like water. The whole corridor lit up with the same blue glow. The ship responds to the gun, Chul explained, and the gun responds to me. The floor beneath them hummed. Panels in the walls slid open, revealing hidden pathways and rooms they hadn't seen before. This way, said Chul, lowering the gun. I can get us back to our ship faster. Why should we trust you? Asked Dax, still aiming his weapon. Because I'm still the same person I was yesterday, Chul answered. I'm still your engineer. I'm still human. I just know more now. Captain Yuna stepped between them. Dax, lower your weapon. That's an order. Captain, you don't understand what's at stake here, Dax protested. I understand that this ship is falling apart, and Chul seems to be the only one who can get us out, Captain Yuna said firmly. Another violent shake rocked the ship. Pieces of the ceiling began to fall around them. We need to go now, urged Jin. Fight later if you must. Dax reluctantly lowered his weapon. Fine. Lead the way, human. Chul turned and ran down one of the newly revealed corridors. The others followed close behind. As they ran, lights turned on ahead of them and off behind them, as if the ship was using its last energy to guide their way. They reached a large room filled with strange machines. Through the windows, they could see their own ship, the Stellar Horizon Asterisk, still docked to the ancient vessel. The airlock is jammed, said Jin, checking the control panel. The system's failing. Step back, said Chul. He raised the gun again and concentrated. The gun's blue light flowed from his hand into the control panel. The airlock doors groaned, then slowly began to open. Hurry, Chul urged. The connection won't last long. Captain Yuna and Jin rushed through the opening. Dax hesitated, looking at Chul with suspicion. After you, Dax said coldly. You first, replied Chul. I need to stay until everyone is through. Dax's scales rippled with anger, but he moved toward the airlock. As he passed Chul, he suddenly spun around, striking out with his clawed hand. Chul saw the attack coming. The gun seemed to react to his thoughts, creating a shield of blue energy that blocked Dax's strike. Enough, shouted Chul. The energy shield expanded, pushing Dax backward through the airlock and into Captain Yuna and Jin. More pieces of ceiling fell. The ship's alarms grew louder, more urgent. The ship can't hold together much longer. Chul called through the airlock. Get back to the Stellar Horizon Asterisk. What about you? Asked Captain Yuna. There's something I need to do first, Chul replied. The ship's memory core. I need to save it. There's no time, Jin shouted. I can do it, Chul insisted. The gun knows where to go. Before they could argue further, Chul closed the airlock from his side. Through the small window, he could see Captain Yuna's worried face and Dax's angry one. "I'll be right behind you," he promised. Using his connection to the gun, Chol sealed the airlock, protecting his crewmates from the failing ship. Then he turned and ran deeper into the vessel, following the pull in his mind. The gun led him to a small room at the heart of the ship. Inside was a glowing crystal the size of his fist, floating in a column of light. "The memory core," Chol whispered. As he approached, the crystal pulsed, as if recognizing him. The gun in his hand pulsed in response. Chol understood what he needed to do. He reached into the light and took the crystal. As his fingers closed around it, the crystal melted into a liquid that flowed up his arm, joining with the symbols already there. Knowledge flooded his mind. Centuries of human history, technology, and power. The ship gave a final, violent shudder. Chol knew it was about to break apart completely. With the gun in hand and the ship's memories now part of him, Chol ran back toward the airlock, racing against time to rejoin his crew before it was too late. The Stellar Horizon pulled away from the ancient ship just as explosions began to tear through its hull. Captain Yuna stood at the bridge window, watching with concern. "Any sign of Chol?" she asked. "Nothing," replied Toll from the scanner station. "No life signs detected on the old ship." Dax crossed his arms. "We should leave." He made his choice. "We wait," said Captain Yuna firmly. 5 more minutes. Jin pointed suddenly at the screen. "Look, something's coming out." A small object shot from the dying ship, trailing blue light. It headed straight for the Stellar Horizon. "Evasive maneuvers," shouted Dax. "No," said Captain Yuna. "Open the emergency airlock in Section 4. The object changed course, heading for the open airlock. It disappeared inside the ship. "Security team to Section 4, ordered Dax into his communicator. Captain Yuna, Dax, and Jin hurried to the airlock. The security team was already there, weapons drawn. The outer door closed, and the inner door slid open. Chol stood inside, breathing hard. The gun glowed in his hand. Blue symbols covered both his arms now, shining through his uniform. "Chol," said Jin with relief. "Drop the weapon," ordered Dax. Chol shook his head. "We need to talk. All of us." He looked at Captain Yuna. "There's something you all need to know." Captain Yuna studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Meeting room." Now. The entire crew gathered in the meeting room. They stared at Chol and the glowing symbols on his skin. The ancient gun sat on the table in front of him. "What I'm about to tell you isn't in any history book," Chol began, "but it's the truth." He touched the gun, and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed Earth, but not as they knew it. This Earth was surrounded by massive space stations and shipyards. 10,000 years ago, humans were the most advanced species in the galaxy, said Chol. "We built ships that could cross the stars in days. We created technology that seemed like magic. We explored farther than any species before us." The hologram changed to show humans meeting other alien species, sharing technology, building together. For thousands of years, humans led a peaceful alliance of species. We helped younger civilizations grow. We protected them from threats. The image shifted again, showing strange ships attacking human worlds. Then a new enemy came from beyond the known galaxy. They wanted to destroy all intelligent life. The human alliance fought back. The war lasted for centuries. The hologram showed terrible battles, entire planets being destroyed. In the end, we won, but at a terrible cost. Most of humanity was gone. Our greatest worlds were destroyed. The alliance was broken. Chol paused, his face sad. The surviving alien species feared what humans might do next. They had seen our power, our technology. While we were weak, they made a decision. The hologram showed alien ships surrounding Earth. They erased our history. They took our technology. They trapped us on Earth and kept us primitive. They changed their own records to make it seem like humans had always been a young, weak species. Captain Yuna leaned forward. How can we believe this? It could be a trick of that weapon. I can prove it, said Chul. He pointed to Dr. Jin. The Arkelians, your mother's people, they were created by humans. Their genes were designed in human labs to help them survive on harsh worlds. Jin's eyes widened in shock. Chul turned to Tol. The Farlax, your people, were once humans who chose to adapt their bodies for life in deep space. You're our cousins. He looked around the table. Many of the species here have human DNA somewhere in their past. We were all connected once. Dax stood up angrily. This is nonsense. Humans have always been primitive. That's what you were taught, said Chul. What all of us were taught. But it's not the truth. He touched the gun again, and the hologram showed the asterisk Soul's Promise asterisk in its original form. A massive warship with weapons that could destroy planets. This ship wasn't a colony vessel. It was the last flagship of the human fleet. Its mission was to hide the truth until humans were ready to reclaim their place in the stars. The crew stared at the hologram in stunned silence. I'm not asking you to give humans power again, said Chul quietly. I'm just asking you to know the truth. We were all allies once. We could be again. Captain Yuna looked at the ancient gun, then at Chul. What do you want to do with this knowledge? She asked. What do you want to do with this knowledge? Captain Yuna asked. All eyes in the meeting room turned to Chul. The blue symbols on his arms glowed softly. The ancient gun sat on the table, still connected to his mind. Chul looked at each face around the table. He saw fear, doubt, and in some, a spark of curiosity. I want to build bridges, not weapons, he said finally. For thousands of years, humans have been kept in the dark about what we once were. Other species have been taught to fear or mock us. He touched the gun, and it dimmed slightly. I could use this technology to give humans power again. I could share weapons that would make Earth a force to be feared. Chul shook his head. But that's not the way forward. Dax leaned forward, his scales shifting colors with emotion. Then what is your plan, human? To share knowledge, not power, Chul replied. To help all our peoples remember that we were once allies. The war that nearly destroyed us all happened because we were divided. Captain Yuna nodded slowly. A noble goal. But many will resist this truth. The galaxy has been built on the belief that humans are primitive. Changing that will not be easy. Change never is, said Chul with a small smile. But it's necessary. Jin stood up. I want to know more about my Arkelian heritage. If what you say is true, our entire history has been hidden from us too. Others around the table began to nod, curious about their own forgotten connections to humanity. Chul turned to Dax. You've mocked me from the day we met. You believed humans were primitive and weak. Now you know different. What will you do with this knowledge? The room went quiet, waiting for Dax's response. Dax stared at the gun, then at Chul. Finally, he sighed. If you wanted revenge, you could have taken it already. The fact that you haven't speaks well of you. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was a start. So what happens now? Asked Tol. Captain Yuna stood up. First, we report that the asterisk Soul's Promise asterisk was destroyed in a core breach. We mention nothing about ancient weapons or human empires. You want to hide the truth? Asked Jin with surprise. For now, said Captain Yuna, until we understand it better ourselves. She looked at Chul. Can you control what that gun shows you? Chul nodded. I'm learning to. The ship's memory core is inside me now, but I can access it slowly, carefully. Then that's what we'll do, decided Captain Yuna. We'll form a small group on this ship to study what Chul has learned. In time, when we're ready, we'll share it with others. And the gun? Asked Dax. Chul picked up the ancient weapon. It stays with me. It's tuned to my mind now. No one else can use it. Over the next few weeks, as the asterisk Stellar Horizon asterisk continued its trade route, Chul met regularly with Captain Yuna, Jin, and, surprisingly, Dax. They studied the knowledge from the memory core, learning about humanity's true past and its connections to other species. The mockery Chul had faced daily stopped. The crew now watched him with a mixture of respect and curiosity. Some even asked him questions about Earth and human culture. One evening, Chul found Dax in the observation deck, staring at the stars. "You changed everything, you know," said Dax without turning around. "Not me," replied Chul. "The truth did." Dax turned to face him. "My people have stories of the Builders' godlike beings who helped us develop space travel. I always thought they were myths. Now you know they weren't. It's not easy. Learning your entire history is based on lies," said Dax quietly. "No," agreed Chul. "But it's better than living in ignorance." They stood in silence, watching the stars together. Not as enemies or even reluctant allies, but as two beings beginning to understand their shared past. 6 months later, the Stellar Horizon docked at Earth for the first time. Chul stepped off the ship with Captain Yuna beside him. He carried no visible weapon, but the knowledge of humanity's true heritage lived within him. It was time to share the truth, carefully and wisely, not to rebuild an empire, but to forge new connections between all the children of the stars. A new chapter in galactic history had begun.